For some, this was the main event. For others, it was just another night at the Woody Hayes Athletic Center. Justin Fry, the Ohio State offensive line, took center stage. Yes, he was asked about recruiting. Yes, he was asked about offensive line development. We're going to get into all of that with Tim May, the 41-year vet, with Andy Backstrom and me, Spencer Holbrook. Tim, what did you learn? This offensive line unit seems pretty confident group.
Yes, it seems a pretty confident group, and it's really interesting that Seth McLaughlin, who was getting ready to start for the second straight year at Alabama a year ago, is in my opinion, has become sort of the cornerstone of this offensive line in terms of guys who's been there, done that. I understand he's playing extremely well in preseason camp. He's a grown man, as I've said, just same thing I say about Will Howard, but just started from there. I mean, I think they've got a really good situation going there because that then amps up the competition at right guard, which they want to. I think they want to keep that a competition for a while. Is the gist I'm getting. With Carson Hinsman, Tegra Shabola, maybe even Luke Montgomery. I mean, Luke Montgomery is slowly but surely finding his level of water here in this offensive line room. And I don't think anybody saw him as the next Orlando Pace when he walked in the door. But when you're an in-state guy, there are a lot of expectations about you immediately. Same thing with Tegra Shabola. Sometimes it takes a while. So that's my takeaway initially from this.
It's interesting, Tim, that you have that takeaway on the right guard battle, because the things that Ryan Day said and then translating that with what Justin Fry said and hearing the confidence from Tegra, like it seems like if Tegra does a good job on Saturday in the final mock game, I think he's going to get the start against Akron.
I think he is too.
But that doesn't mean, like you said, that the competition is shut down. Andy, what'd you learn?
16-game season at least.
I learned that these guys are really confident in the way they can run the football. Carson Hinsman was like, yeah, we're going to pound the rock. I think that was your question, Tim. And they really like what Chip Kelly's brought to that run game. Donovan Jackson was talking about the way they're getting off the ball right now. I get the sense that they're about to be really physical. And I think there's something about having 3 Iron Buckeyes that are offensive linemen. Carson Hinsman was one of them.
Yep.
And he talked about how that was so important to him. This has been a huge bounce back offseason for him. And I feel like it's not just Carson Hinsman, but also, Luke Montgomery, Josh Fryer, like all these guys have moved around different places over their time. And it's really fascinating to hear them talk about learning those different spots. I asked Luke Montgomery, what's the toughest thing about balancing? He's played in just a short career, tackle, guard, and center. He's like, you just need to be in the books and know the scheme. Once you know the scheme, it's not that hard to move around, but it takes a lot to be balancing all of that movement. Tegra Shabola, another guy, right? Played tackle, now he's a guard. All of these guys have been moving different places, and to see it kind of all just finally fit in the right places is kind of cool to watch.
Yeah.
They've all seemed to find their natural positions. Like, because of the situation that was unfolding last year, which was a bad situation. Like, nobody's going to tell anybody that's not. Like, I asked Justin Fry, like, hindsight is 2020, but like, look back on last year and tell me, like, where you're at this year compared to that. You can tell. They don't have to say it. You can tell that they were up the proverbial creek without the propulsion unit that they needed last year.
And those lithium battery power.
Yeah, exactly. And so, like, even Zen Michalski, who is for a lot of fans an afterthought, if I'm being honest, but for us, like, he's one play away. And I asked him about being one play away, and he said, well, I'm at left again. I'm at left tackle again. He's like, people don't realize what it's like to be at right tackle when you're supposed to play left. But last year I had to play right tackle because that's the spot that I was trying to earn. He's like, I wasn't good at right tackle. So now he's back at left. He's like, I'm playing really well. Ryan Day starts talking about him unprovoked. Like, this is a guy who we're going to need. And he's playing well because he's a backup tackle. Like, everyone on this line right now seems like they're in their natural positions. And that sounds stupid, right? Like, it sounds, well, duh, play them at their natural positions, but like, that's not how football works. But when you have the luxury of having 3 guys on the left side, including Seth McLaughlin, that have 20-plus starts under their belt, when you have the right side that has either a 12-game start at right guard or a brute, massive individual who is going to get the job done, and then you have a 15-game starter in Josh Fryer, like, you have the luxury now of putting guys in their natural positions in that second group and letting them go to work and letting them develop there. I love what this...
Especially when you have an illness go through the group and guys have to play.
Tim, I love what this unit's doing right now. I really do.
Yeah. The news out of the day, I guess, is Nick... Well, that's one of the news. The news out of the day is Nick McClarty's been named... is going to...
Yeah.
Looks like he's going to be the starting punter several weeks ago, he was still playing maybe Australian rules football. Well, a little longer ago than that. But the guy looks the part. He looks like he could play defensive end or punter. The size of the guy, the way he's built, he's played Australian rules football, I guess. And as Ryan Day says, there's a big difference. I go, yeah. Australian football, you don't play with pads on, and you get hit a lot. And,
Yeah.
And you have to keep kicking the ball. But going to be interesting because this guy has one of the great legs, punting legs you've ever seen. I think
Yeah.
you agree with me, right?
Yeah, I've already got a nickname for him. I don't know if I'm ready to unveil it yet, but I've already got a nickname for him. So we'll wait
Thunder
on
from
that.
Down Under?
No, it's better than that. We'll wait on it. So punter is out of the bag, I guess. I was gonna do the housekeeping for last because I think punter is
okay.
more of a housekeeping.
But
But
that's a
that's
starting
important.
job,
What do you
yeah.
think, Andy? You're a special teams guy by
Nick
trade. How you
McClarty?
feeling?
Well, good for him because he was competing with Anthony Veneri, who came in from Buffalo, has significant experience. Also,
Yeah.
Joe McGuire
He
was
was
already
good.
here and was a guy in the spring. So, hat tip to Nick McClarty for winning the job. Again, 6'7", 255 pounds. It's a big human. You could even play him at left tackle.
But
if
he's
you
kind of
wanted
like
to.
Bryson DeChambeau off the tee, too. Though,
Yeah.
isn't he?
The thing is, it's interesting about punter here is that you don't necessarily need all of that leg. It's helpful if you're
Right.
backed up, but this offense might not be backed up very often. So
Yeah.
Well,
it's going to
you
be
know-
more about the precision, and I think that's going to be interesting to watch
Yeah.
to see how he pins teams in their own 20, 10, et cetera. So that's what I'm going to be watching for. But I know everyone loves to see those big booming kicks, and we got plenty of video of that in training camp.
Yeah, and like Ryan said during one of the press conferences, they're looking for a guy that can punch it routinely, consistently 40 to 44 yards, great hang time. So you go down, there's no return, et cetera, and can place it where you want to place it. And then Harmon Killebrew, that's an old-time slugger from way back. Mickey Mantle suddenly is your punter.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting to watch because it's kind of like I can hit a good drive occasionally, but man, my short game, leaves a lot to be desired. So
Sure does.
We'll see if Nick McClarty, you've never played with him, but I've told you enough tales. But it'd be interesting to see how Nick McClarty's short game, because for him, a 40-yard punt's a short game.
Fine, I'll do it. You've heard of Das Boot. Now it's Ausboot, A-U-S, Ausboot. That's his nickname. I've come up with it myself. Yes, I'll take a bow.
You know
Use
what
it-
I call my rangefinder?
What's that?
Das Boot.
Okay.
For golf.
Because you always boot it away when you realize how far away you
periscope
are?
up, I want to see how far I got to go. What's the range?
Anyway, back to offensive line talk
That's a
after
true story, by the way.
after that cameo by the special teams unit.
I like that.
Anything else, Andy? Like, we just know we do know a lot about this unit, and I
Yeah.
feel like that's kind of one of these things that maybe gets overlooked. Like, we know so much about Josh Fryer. We didn't even talk to Josh Simmons, but we know a lot about him. He's going to play a lot. I mean, he's going to be a massive figure here. We heard a lot about Tegra Shabola in the right guard competition with
Wait,
Carson
let me
Hinsman,
interrupt
but
you.
like,
What do you think the deal is with Josh Simmons? Why does he not want to
I just think he's not a
talk to us?
I just don't think he's a
I mean,
media
that was
guy.
a big, as the year went on last year, it was a big deal, wasn't it? I mean,
Yeah, he's just not a media guy, and you know what? That's
He's
fine.
a
I
great guy to talk to,
respect it.
though.
These
I'm
guys are
sorry.
getting paid now; they get to make their decisions. So
yeah, but he's a starting left tackle at Ohio State.
I agree. Did you learn anything? Whether it's Seth McLaughlin, Donovan Jackson, I do want you to enlighten us a little bit. Donovan Jackson, not the most thrilled guy to get some of these questions tonight. Like,
Yeah,
you get him riled up. He's gonna.
There were still some questions here and there about last year and the criticism that this line dealt with. And yeah, Donovan didn't love one of them, but I wouldn't either if I was in his position. They've turned the page. And I think the one thing I took away here was that this virus maybe was a good thing for this group because it gave,
Silver lining.
obviously physically it was not a good thing for them, but as far as the depth goes and building that for Justin Fry, like he got to see guys at different positions. Some guys had to play multiple positions in the same practices. Like we've heard that with Austin Saravel playing tackle and guard. Josh Padilla was another guy like that. And then guys having to step up, like Zen Mahalski getting opportunities, George Fitzpatrick getting some opportunities. Like those are big things, especially for tackle depth, which we've talked about before. Feels like George Fitzpatrick and Zen Mahalski are making them feel a lot better about the tackle positions because going into training camp, I think we still had some big questions about if one of those tackles went down, what are you doing? Is it Tegra Shabola that just slides over? Now it feels like that's not the answer necessarily. It could be, but they feel better about those guys that are helping in that position.
And Carson Hinsman was like as he said, likes using both hands when he comes off the ball, as a guard. Whereas you're always snapping when you're the center and you're always a little bit behind with that right hand or left hand, whichever one you're going with. But no, what's interesting is sitting there talking with Luke Montgomery, he's kind of played musical chairs in slow motion, as I said to him. The last came in as a highly touted tackle. Then we were looking at him possibly in the running for right guard, and now he's playing some center, and he actually has enjoyed it.
Yeah.
You got to let these guys find their spot, and that's what we were talking about. And really, the sickness I think was a silver lining, as you're talking
Yeah.
about. And it has paid off for him, it appears, but we're not going to know the answer to that really until they probably take on Iowa.
I will implore Ohio State fans to keep an open mind with this offensive line, because I think this offensive line right now is getting the rap of the offensive line from last year.
Right.
And that's okay. Like, you don't have to believe us. You really don't. But I'm just telling you, like, the way that they're talking about this line right now is just not the same as they were at this time last year. Like, if you listen back to what Justin Fry and Ryan Day were saying at this time last year, like, there probably were some times where we could have hit that panic button in August. Like, okay, like, this is not a good situation. I do not feel that way this year. And if I did, I would say something, because I felt bad that we didn't hit that panic button in August of last year. Like, I did, because I didn't think we did a good enough service to the people who watched this. Like, I feel good about this unit right now.
Until we see it.
I know you want to see it, but
I mean,
like
4 of the 5 starters are back from last year's unit.
But all I'm trying to say is, like, I asked Justin Fry, like, in hindsight, you look at this group compared to where you guys were last year, and, you know, your starting guard is not your backup tackle anymore. Your starting tackle is not your backup center anymore. And, like, that was the reality last year.
Right.
Ryan Day said in, I think, November, Andy, that, like, well, we would try different combinations, but we don't have anybody else that's going to step up and take another job. Like, that is bad. And now, like, if Josh Fryer doesn't play well, they might run George Fitzpatrick out there and, like, hey,
Sure.
go do something.
Another year in the program.
If Seth McLaughlin has bad snaps, buddy, you're coming out of the game. Like, they have guys behind these guys now that they can probably plug in and give a shot to, whereas last year they didn't even feel like they could do that.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like as the season went on, we were pretty blunt and honest with the situation. I remember that was around the Maryland game when he said that they didn't have the second team depth that they wanted.
That was tough.
We talked about that. I mean, as it went on, it was very apparent the issues that were being had there. But I think a lot of the guys showed some growth as the season went on. It was just at those last moments, the Michigan game, the way that ended, of course, the Cotton Bowl. I think that soured the development that we did see through the second half of the season, because I think there was this gradual build. Okay, they're getting better. And then you have the breakdown, that final play with the interception, and then you have the Missouri game in Cotton Bowl where it was like, okay, what is going on?
Yeah.
I think that soured
all game.
I think that soured that second half development and kind of left a bad taste in the mouths
Well, of course it did,
of everyone.
because-
Well, of course, yeah.
I mean, Michigan was the best team they played
Yeah,
against
and
last
that's
year.
valid. Like, I'm just saying
And then Missouri was the darling that really was the real Cinderella story last year out of the SEC, and it's like they had their way with Ohio State's offensive line 5 times out of 10. It looked like
absolutely.
that was tough to watch.
Just to Spencer's point, though, like there was that growth previous to that.
I agree.
And that's why it's probably they're just building on that right now. And I also just think that, like, credit to Mick Marotti and the guys that just buying into this offseason, because I think that was a huge part of this, was just coming back tougher.
But like Ryan Day said, man, he just wants to get up there and knock people off. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Play with your hair on fire, so to speak. Knock people off.
That's
the
exactly
ball.
what he said, hair
I
on fire.
know, but knock people off the ball. All these kind of like cliches, but they, you know, play like you're the nastiest guy in town.
Yeah.
Is basically the credo, for want of another term. And then you add in that what Chip Kelly has brought to this running game from a schematic standpoint. Like Carson Hinsman was almost trying to tell us some secrets, but he didn't. You know, stop. But
Good for Carson.
there's going to be interesting things we're going to see in the running game. I keep telling people about this. I mean, on my Tim May show this week, I've got Gary Danielson from CBS claiming that Chip Kelly was the biggest hire in terms of assistant coaches in the country this year. And he thinks it's going to play out big time because he has done wonders with the running game everywhere he's ever been. And it ends up being a downhill running nasty unit that he puts on the field, even when he was at Oregon. And it was kind of like mixing and matching offensive linemen who didn't look like offensive linemen, compared to Ohio State. So there are all these things, like you said, that have kind of come together, including the experience, both good and bad, that almost everybody on that starting unit of this offensive line got last year.
Yeah.
And having a chip on your shoulder is great, but, you kind of put it there.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, you're the reason that it's there. I agree. We're going to get out of here. It's late. It's Thursday night. 3 straight nights in the Woody. We won't be back here until Tuesday, but guess what? Tuesday will be game week. We're going to be in the Horseshoe on Monday for the Monday before Ohio State Akron. That's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to break down the zips. Andy's going to have a full film breakdown of what Akron's going to try to run at Ohio State. Ben Finley and that passing attack should be a lot of fun. Andy's going to provide, I think, 10,000 words you said on the Akron game.
10,000 words.
Yeah. Tim,
He's
How many of
just
those words
I'm
are people
just,
gonna read?
I'm just kidding. It's a complete joke.
Cut it off at 8,500.
Okay,
Right,
there
yeah,
you go.
that's
There we
perfect,
go.
yeah.
8,500 words from Andy on the Akron run game and passing game, each separate. Tim's going to do his thing over at LettermenRow.com, and there's me. I'm always going to be there. Got a lot of fun stuff coming to kick off the season. Lettermen Row will be everywhere that we need to be to cover Ohio State, like we always are. Make sure you like this video, please. Like the video, helps us out a lot. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, that also helps us out a lot. And go get a membership at LettermenRow.com. We're doing some really cool things over there. If you haven't done it, give us a chance. I don't think you'll regret it at all. Tim May's content's there for Tim, for Andy. His content's there for Andy. I'm just Spencer. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We'll see you guys over at LettermenRow.com.